Anniversaries come and go, but this one was worth celebrating. It was the first anniversary of the day. I discovered that my marriage was over. I know what you're thinking who celebrates something like that. Well, I'm not so much celebrating the unpleasantness as I'm pausing to recognize that I have survived this situation and come out of it stronger on this day. A year ago, I was sitting in my office thinking, I didn't sign up for this, did I? I remember the vows for better or for worse, in sickness and in health until death do part death. I think was beginning to seem like a way out. That was my exit strategy. You see, that day, I found out that my beautiful and loving wife of 6 years, my best friend, the woman who had been everything to me, had turned out to be a cheating. Uh, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking. The signs were there. She stayed out late, showered as soon as she got home, was always too tired for sex, and got annoyed me for every little thing. No, none of that happened. I was just an ignorant fool. So, how did I know it was Wednesday and it was getting close to lunchtime? I was on my way back to the office after an unscheduled visit to a client and thought I'd get a fried fish sandwich from a little store. I know well they call it the Whale, and they make it fresh fried with tartar sauce, lettuce leaves, and tomatoes in a roll. It's like fish in a bun. You know how it is when things are going well, everything is falling into place. The customers are happy, and you like to think about the good lunch that awaits you in just a few minutes. That's the way it was. I was fat, dumb, and happy. That's when it happened. I was stopped at a stoplight when I saw my lovely wife's car coming the other way. She turned right into the parking lot of the local Don't Tell Anyone motel. I thought, what the hell? I turned right into the parking lot with a gas station pulled into a vacant space and watched as she got out of her car and headed straight for one of the rooms. She knocked the door opened and she walked in like she'd done it 1,000 times. What the hell, you're probably thinking? I ran across the street and started pounding on the door. Then I broke down the door and beat my lover with my bare paws. No. Now you think I slipped across the street and came in from the other side where I found the curtains slightly parted. I peed between the curtains and saw everything I needed to know. No, that wasn't it either. I needed to know, but I didn't need her to know that I knew. I just found a place where I could sit quietly in my car and watch that door. An hour after she arrived, she left. 5 minutes later, a man in an expensive suit came out of the room, got into a Lexus, and drove away. Typical, I always thought Lexus was an overpriced commodity for someone who was showing off. I was useless that day. I didn't even try to work. I just sat in my office and researched divorce laws online. It was as bad as I had heard it before, regardless of the motivation behind the divorce. No fault or because of adultery, the result was the same. Damn her to hell, they had to pay. Then I realized I didn't even know his name. How was I going to make him pay if I didn't know who he was? Fate intervened that night. I had barely said 2 words to her all evening, and she was asking me what was wrong. What the hell did she think was wrong? Did she feel guilty? Was she afraid I knew something, or was her thinking so chaotic and her behavior so disjointed that she hadn't connected my attitude and her actions together? I stupidly watched the nightly news, and there was a local report of a bank robbery during my lunch break. The reporters had videotapes of the robber's appearance, and the woman involved in the raid looked something like my wife. The robber was wearing a CO mask, but her hair, eyes, height, and build made her a good double for the woman I married. Of course, I knew it wasn't her because my wife was in that motel room, a jerk and Alexis, but I can play dumb hell. Maybe I'm not even playing the next morning. I called the police department and asked about the robbery. I was told they were working on a few leads, which in cop parlament means we've got nothing. So I innocently told them that the robber looked a lot like the woman who lived across the street from me, and I gave them her name. I also told them that she had recently bought a new car. That was a hal truth. Because I bought it, I happened to know that my wife wasn't home when the robbery happened. That last one was pretty darn true. I figured they'd knock on the front door, have an awkward conversation with him, and at least I'd get a good laugh out of it to help me get through the next few weeks while I filed divorce papers. Oh no, it went much better than that. When the cops saw that she really did look a lot like the robber, and she couldn't explain where she was. During the robbery, they took her down to the station for what they euphemistically called an interview, where she was forced to confess where she was and with whom it wasn't hard for anyone who heard her to guess what she had been up to. They kept her at the station while they checked her alibi. That's a simplistic way of saying they put her in a cell and went to the asshole's house when he wasn't home. The wife gave them a work address. The interest in her husband did not escape the wife's attention. When he tried to deny having an affair with my wife, they went to the motel and got the videotapes. His appearance on the screen didn't make the police love him anymore, but it gave them both an alibi. It turns out that lying to police officers is indeed a crime. And so they went back to his house that night to charge him with a minor misdemeanor. I secretly suspect that they waited until he got home on purpose so they could arrest him in front of his wife. It didn't result in any big fine or jail time for the underscore, but it did result in his divorce. The story was too racy to be kept secret, and the cheating raider incident quickly became a running joke at the station. The police soon told the couple. The couple told their friends, and their friends told their friends. Pretty soon, my wife, and became the laughingstock of the town. Even the judge who heard my divorce petition laughed when he realized who she was. In the end, the divorce was final. She had done everything that was expected of her and uttered all the usual cliches, but her confidence was shattered and would not be repaired in this life. Everywhere she went, she heard whispers and stifled laughter behind her back. Soon she was out of town. I have no idea where she is or if they are together, and I don't care. Now I'm moving forward looking back. I sometimes wonder if it was worth the effort. I knew she was cheating on me, and I was happy to divorce her for it, but I wanted to make her look like a cheater who had to admit to cheating to avoid arrest for armed robbery. I imagined her having to admit, sure, I'm a liar and a cheat, but I'm not a robber. It was less satisfying than I had hoped, but I must admit that I would do it again if faced with the same situation. Eventually, 2 police officers paid me a visit. Anonymity was no longer an option, so they knew perfectly well that it was me who had called them to report my wife officially. They weren't surprised. Unofficially, I offered to buy each of them a beer, and we decided to consider it a small fine. I think one of them was divorced, and the other was about to get divorced. They admired my work. Just don't do it again, was all they said to me. I wasn't sure if they meant the message about my wife being a burglar or if they were talking about marrying her. But either way, I agreed to both. Here I am. A year later, I've gotten rid of the deception that haunted me, and I'm rebuilding my life. I had a few secondary friends who were actually friends of my wife. They knew about her betrayal, so I had no trouble cutting them out of my life. I then redoubled my efforts toward the good friends who supported me. I didn't date anyone until the divorce was final. I spent that time dealing with my emotions then about a month ago. I met a delightful woman my age. She too is divorced from a cheating husband. We have so much in common. She too is rebuilding her life, and she too has made it her life's work to find the best bourbon produced on earth. We consider this our sacred mission and take it very seriously. Maybe we succeed, maybe we don't, We are doing it very leisurely right now. I am enjoying every minute I can spend with her tonight. She will help me celebrate my divorce.